Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Rock Chick Week, where I'm pretending to be a rock chick. Okay, no, that's not true. Where I am discussing each book in my favorite series by my favorite author, Kristen Ashley. And today we're talking about the fifth book. The first four books are long and the last four books are longer. So Rock Chick Revenge is the story of Ava Barlow and Luke Stark. The very first time that I read all of these books, Rock Chick Revenge was my absolute favorite, hands down. And I owe that all to Luke Stark because he is present from the beginning of the series and he lurks in the background and he kind of teases with hooking up with other heroines in the first four books, and he's like mysterious and he's the baddest ass of the badasses. He's the biggest badass. There we go. He's the biggest badass of all the badasses. So this was hands down my favorite book. Having reread the series, this is no longer my favorite book. And that's huge for me. It's hard for me to say, but it's the truth. But this is the story of Ava and Luke. Ava is a girl from Luke's past. She loved him from afar. It was an unrequited childhood love because Ava was the nerdy chubby kid in town, and across the street lived the gorgeous troublemaker, rebellious teen Lucas Stark. So who hasn't, okay? I was the nerdy chubby girl. I can't say that there was a gorgeous, badass, rebellious teen living across the street from me, but I can tell you that I wished that there had been. So I had a lot of connections to this book, and I still do. I can still relate to a lot of the stuff in this book. The way especially that the heroine feels about herself, but anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Ava and Luke knew each other in childhood, teenage years. They lived across the street from each other. They never had a very personal relationship, but, you know, he stuck up for her when she was being bullied, and her dad left, and Luke, you know, comforted her when she was young, and you know, later on, Luke's dad dies and Ava returns the favor, comforting him. And the whole time, Ava has sort of this Cinderella thing going on. She's got a mother and two sisters who treat her like garbage because she isn't this glamorous image of the women in their family. She's not, you know, as beautiful as them. She's not as popular as them. So she's this, I don't really want to say ugly duckling, but she is sort of mistreated and sort of made to feel bad about herself in childhood. And because of that, she doesn't realize how attached to her Luke Stark actually is. And she blows him off thinking that, you know, there's no way. It's impossible. Somebody like Luke would never like somebody like Ava. That's just how she feels about herself, and ends up kind of hurting Luke in the process. So years later, she shows up because her best friend is in a bad marriage, and since Luke is working as a private investigator, Ava thinks maybe he can help. But the whole time she's apprehensive. She has since become this beautiful swan, found confidence, she's adopted a healthier lifestyle, she's working out, she's lost weight, she's got rid of the glasses, she's no longer four eyes, you know, that whole thing. But she still has a little bit of insecurity. She still thinks that Luke Stark is way too good for her. So a lot of the book is about her like chickening out and not being as bold as Luke is bold, and he is bold. He's been bold in the first four books, and he is bold in this book. And in a lot of ways, the relationship conflict comes from Luke not immediately understanding that Ava isn't used to the attention that she gets. Because she grew up feeling, fat and four-eyed and ugly and all kinds of stuff, she doesn't understand now that she's a grown woman and she's grown into herself and she's beautiful. She doesn't understand that. And so, she's inexperienced in men flirting with her and in all of those unwritten rules of relationships or unspoken things that the rest of us take for granted. Ava's brand new at this, and because of that, she's been treated very poorly by the few boyfriends that she's had before reconnecting with Luke. Luke tries, being the badass alpha male, tries to seek revenge on one ex-boyfriend in particular that did horrible things to Ava, and he retaliates and hurts Ava. And so that's the conflict of this book. Now, not my favorite anymore because, again, I think it's an age thing. I think I felt a lot more like Ava back when I first read this book than I do now. I don't really feel like her anymore, and she's almost annoying. Through this book, there's this whole good Ava on one shoulder, bad Ava on one shoulder thing that she's got going on in her head. And each one of the heroines, I haven't mentioned it up to this point, but each one of the heroines has their own voice. They have their own swear words, their own little quirks, their own little interesting personality traits that make them individuals. And Ava's is this good Ava, bad Ava thing. I sympathize a lot more in this book with the hero now than I do with the heroine. And that's unusual for me. But I still love this book. I adore this book. I'm always going to adore this book. And I think maybe it's a nostalgia thing. I think maybe it's because I remember how important this book was to me the very first time that I read this series. And it's still a good book. It is. Ava is the most annoying heroine. And yet Luke is probably the hottest hero. Such a decision. So anyways, that is book number 5, Rock Chick Revenge, the story of Ava and Luke. I will be back tomorrow to talk about book number 6. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.